Hello, everyone. I wanted to give people an update on the cosmic joke that has become my eye. If you've been watching the streams, if you've been watching these regular Eyepatch Wolf videos, you'll notice that I have been wearing an eye patch. And I've talked about this before a couple of times, but I feel a need to talk about it again because I have a little update. And also, I've been posting more videos to Instagram and TikTok, and a lot of people are like, what's the deal with the eye? Does this person actually need an eye patch? And the answer is yes. So here it is. Basically, I went to an eye doctor, eye specialist, and we kind of exhausted all options before they kind of shrugged their shoulders and said, buddy, I have no fucking idea what's going on with your eye, which wasn't great. But we did manage to confirm that there is nothing wrong with my brain. My brain is not the problem. So there's no tumor, there's no cancer. There's nothing actually wrong with like my brain material, which is really good because there was a couple of weeks there where signs were starting to point to it being something more serious. And that was really hard, you know, like I can remember I had one or two nights where I was in bed, awake at like 5 a.m., staring at my little wife, being like, oh shit. And getting the news that it wasn't that was a huge relief. So overall, I'd say like that is good news. I am happy about all that. But the problem is that I still didn't have any answers as to what was actually going on with the eye. And that was until last Monday when I went to another specialist and he very quickly, nearly frustratingly so, figured out what's going wrong. And what's going wrong is that I have a detached retina. And what he thinks that means is it's from trauma. In other words, like physical trauma, physical damage. And, you know, I do a lot of combat sports. I love fighting. Fighting is like one of my favorite things in the entire world. You've heard me talk about it to death at this point. But I think the downside of that is like, yeah, over the years, there's been a lot of wear and tear. There's been a lot of shots to the head. There's been a lot of potential things. And what this guy thinks it might be is basically at some point, I took a blow to the head that jangled my skull and something got knocked a little loose. And in the last couple of months, it became more loose. I remember this was like years and years ago. I had just gotten my black belt in Taekwondo. And I was in a match against this guy, huge, big guy. He was a third-degree black belt, very difficult to fight. Martial art, like people who fight a lot will know what I mean here. Very like heavy, solid hits that just go right down into you, not like surface level blows. But anyway, I remember. One of the frustrating things about this guy is like he looked like just a dad, just like the exact dad build you imagine, but he was super flexible. So he'd always catch you with this one kick where he would feint low, he would feint to like, you know, a turning kick towards your like solar plexus, and then at the last second he would snap his leg back and just crush you across the face. And one time he actually got me with this so badly that I went completely unconscious, just complete lights out. And I remember, like, the thing I always say about it is it wasn't like I fell down. It was like the floor fell up and, like, smashed me. That's what it kind of felt like. And then my trainer was like, John, you okay? You okay? And I tried to say to him, I'm okay, boss. I just took a bit of a knock there. But all that came out was... And so I got concussed for that. And I had to actually wear an eye patch for that. The only thing is that was like 15 years ago, and I have definitely taken shots to the head since then, but never anything as bad as that. And so I guess that could have been something to do with it. It also could have been jiu-jitsu. It could have just been people's shoulders smashing into my eye over and over, getting my face ground against the mat. Just all this like kind of repeated trauma. And yeah, so... The good news is that I was actually really worried that it was my streaming lights that were causing this, and it looks like that's not the case, so I don't actually need to worry about like my setup or like how I'm going to kind of keep streaming. The bad news is that the eye is still a problem, and specifically what happens is I have very limited vision in my left eye now, and what happens more, and I haven't actually seen this in like the literature for a detached retina, But what happens is that if it's exposed to light for any length of time, the eye just completely blurs over and I lose whatever vision I kind of already have in it. And that's like, it's kind of a distressing thing in a weird way, because it's nearly like your brain is trying to process data that isn't there. And it can be really like massively distracting and massively disorientating. And a weird thing started to happen where, like, when I'm walking around my house, I don't notice it. I don't notice it because I guess I know my house and my brain is able to fill in the blanks. But when I'm walking around like outside, and particularly like in a crowd or at a convention, it feels fucking crazy because like I can't see out my eye. And like I've walked into people a bunch of times of like, you know, people will say hi to me and I think they think I can see them and I can't, you know? And so that's been really kind of tough to deal with, and it's been tough to know how to deal with. Especially like I did a con recently, Anime North, which was fucking incredible con. I had a really great time, and like, you know, I wasn't wearing the eye patch for that, and people would come up to me and be like, "Oh, I'm glad to see that eye is feeling better," and it's kind of like, unfortunately, it's not, you know. But I think I might just have to start wearing the eye patch in public, and the reason I kind of haven't been up till this point is honestly like I do just feel a bit self-conscious about it, you know. I would say that like I'm already a person who kind of like stands out a little bit appearance-wise. I look a little odd without an eye patch, and with an eye patch I just feel like I kind of look completely insane. And I know that like more people are going to watch this video than I am likely to speak to in the next decade, and so it shouldn't bother me, but I guess it kind of does a little bit, and I think I'll probably have to get over that. Now, in terms of like what's going to happen next, that is a trickier prospect, because basically now my case is going to a surgeon, and it's the surgeon's call as to whether we can even operate or not. He could look at my case and be like, "This is completely inoperable." And if he does, what that would mean is that this is basically me for the rest of my life. And, you know, I can take the loss of eyesight, but I think specifically what that'll mean is that I will have to make a call in terms of, do I want to continue with combat sport at risk of losing the eye? And I know that's like, I've said this to a bunch of people and everyone is just like, well, you just stop fighting. I mean, that's the answer. That's just what you do. This isn't even a question. And that's like, that is a tougher prospect for me, because like fighting, it is how I like maintain like my physical and mental health. You know, like fighting to me is something that's not just like a hobby. Not that I'm like a professional or anything. I'm nowhere near a professional. And like, again, if you put me in a gym with people who take, you know, MMA or grappling or boxing in any way seriously, they're going to destroy me. But it is like a big part of my life. And it is like, it's just a big part of who I am and how I kind of like, you know, process anxiety and deal with emotions and all this kind of stuff. So I really, the choice between fighting and my eye, it's difficult, but it might not come to that either, because if the surgeon does decide to operate, essentially what that means then is that I'll have to wait for a surgery date, which could be a couple of months, and then the recovery date is 3 to 6 months, or the recovery time is 3 to 6 months, which will of course still mean like no fighting. So either way, like fighting is out for the foreseeable future. And I would say that it's looking fairly likely that like the eye patch isn't going to be going anywhere in any time. So yeah, that doesn't mean I'm going to be wearing it 24/7. Like if you're on my Instagram or whatever, and I'm just walking around my house, probably won't wear it then. But I will probably have to start to wear it to like just conventions and stuff like that. Which, yeah, it's weird. I guess to be like completely honest with you, this is all probably stuff that if it wasn't so apparent on camera, I wouldn't really talk about it, because there is a line that I just don't like to talk about online, and a lot of medical stuff is kind of a part of that. But it's kind of the thing where like I just can't really escape of it, and I just have to talk about it. So yeah, I appreciate everyone's concern, and I will keep people updated in the streams or whatnot as they go. But as for the foreseeable future, I think this is it moving forward, and I guess we'll just have to see where things go from here. Okay, till next time.